ice cream machine is actually broken. I didn't even
everybody. Please rise as our pipes and drums lead our veterans into our ceremony.
I'll see you later.
Welcome to our War Remembrance ceremony. Today we welcome our veterans as we come together for a very important ceremony. Memorial Day honors the men and women who have sacrificed their lives and freedoms so that we can live safely and freely in this great country. Today we honor and thank the veterans and new recruits who are here today for their sacrifice, bravery, dedication to the United States of America. Next, I'd like to invite Jess Pritchett, who will sing the national anthem.
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flank was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Jess. Please be seated. At this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Mike Nowacki to say a few words about Memorial Day.
Good morning, students, staff, and family members. Thank you for being here today and providing me with the opportunity to speak. I am a former student of West Milford High School who served in the Marine Corps throughout my following years after graduating. And I am here to reassure and inform you all on the purpose of this coming weekend. Originally called Decoration Day, it was first observed in 1868 and was later changed to Memorial Day in 1971. This day was to honor those that have died in all American wars, and here's my point of view. Now for the students, picture yourself in your senior year, about to graduate and move on to college. Soon after graduating high school and enjoying some time off, you unexpectedly got a letter to your front door, and it's to inform you that you've been drafted into the military. All of your future plans have now changed, and 2 weeks from now you'll be off to basic training. Many weeks later, you have successfully completed vigorous training and boot camp. Along the way, you've made many close bonds with new comrades, and you are all now waiting your next assignment. The word has come out that you're being sent overseas directly in the heat of war, and will likely be there for 9 months or even up to 2 years. 6 months go by at war. You've worked non-stop days in the blazing heat, been eating canned food, you miss home tremendously, and you've had little to no contact with your family. Horrific events full of death and destruction surround you every day, and your closest buddies have either been captured or killed. Yet you still have another year at war, suffering through all these things each and every day. Finally, you have made it to the end and are miraculously going home in one piece. You arrive back into your hometown, and it appears as if the world went about their lives as nothing happened while you were gone. Life moves on, but every night you awaken in distress and have flashbacks about being back in the foxhole hiding from the enemy. And during the day, you have graphic memories of the horror you were once surrounded by. Unfortunately, this will surround you for the rest of your life. You attend your closest comrades' memorial services, but the rest of the world still has no idea what happened to the men and women that never came home. Sit back and truly picture this position you be in yourself. That is tragically the reality for some people in this country. How would you feel? Think about that. The reality for some people. I would hope that you would desire people to uphold a sense of appreciation and recognition for the sacrifices made by those who perished. Some of the things that ponder my mind around Memorial Day is the death of over 100,000 Americans in World War I, over 400,000 deaths in World War II, 36 plus in the Korean War, nearly 60,000 in the Vietnam War, over 2,000 in Afghanistan, nearly 5,000 in Iraq, and unfortunately about 22 U.S. veterans commit suicide each day, making that over 8,000 deaths each year. I think about those that were POW or MIA, prisoners of war who were captured by the enemy and were tortured beyond belief. The missing in action whose bodies were so destroyed that they became unrecognizable. Another event that sticks in my mind is when I was on military leave in August 2021, enjoying vacation with my family. While on leave, the news broke out that 13 service members were killed by a suicide bombing at the Kabul airport evacuation in Afghanistan. 5 of those Marines were just 20 years old, just starting out their enlistment and never got a chance to experience the long life ahead of them. It was a true wake-up call for myself to never take my days in peace and safety for granted, and I hope that you can all do the same and appreciate the small things we're lucky to have because of those that sacrificed it all for us. 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, our military is somewhere holding down the line for us. And that somewhere there is someone that is sleep deprived, most likely hungry, misses home, and hasn't slept in their regular bed for weeks. Let's not forget about these people either. Please keep these similar thoughts in your mind as future Memorial Days pass by. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up Jelena Haas and Colin Awazchuk to honor our veterans.
Thank you all for coming today. First, we would like to recognize our guests sitting to the left of us. These individuals are veterans and active service members. We would like each person to stand and be recognized as we read their names aloud. We will recognize our guests by military branch, starting with the Army. Please hold your applause until we have welcomed all of our honored guests. Army. Stefan Audi is a veteran who served in the Army from 2009 to 2013, attaining the rank of sergeant. He deployed in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2010 through 2011. He has 2 young children who will be attending West Milford schools. Scott Card is a veteran who served from 2008 to 2009 in Operation Iraqi Freedom. He is a 1983 West Milford High School graduate. Mike Dotson is an Army veteran who served from 1970 to 1971 in the Vietnam era. Mr. Dotson is a longtime resident of West Milford and the father of a West Milford graduate. Rudy Haas is a veteran who served from July 1991 to October 2012. He retired from the Army at the rank of Sergeant First Class and served in Kosovo, the Philippines, Afghanistan, and Iraq. He is currently the commander of the VFW and is the father of Jelena and Eliana Haas. Bill Johnson is a veteran who served in Vietnam. He attained the rank of captain. He is the former commander of the VFW, and he has been very supportive of our program. We thank him for all of his support. Pat Lockman is a veteran who served in Vietnam from 1967 to 1969. He is the father of 2 West Milford High School graduates. Mr. Lockman has been very supportive of our War and Remembrance program, and we thank him for sharing his stories. Henry Alexis Manger is a veteran. He is the grandfather of Selma Sadam. Rebecca Manger Peralta is a veteran. She is the mother of Selma Sadam. Ralph Norman is a veteran who served in Vietnam from 1968 to 1970. He was a Specialist 4 and served in the 124th Signal Battalion. He is the grandfather of Emma and Logan Norman, who attend PK in Macapin, as well as 2 West Milford High School graduates. Victoria Stiers is on active duty, currently serving at Joint Base McGuire-Dix in Lakehurst, New Jersey. She is the first lieutenant and has served since May 2021. She is the cousin of Julia Basita, Emily Basita, and Miss Gwinnett. John Trojanowski is a veteran who served in Vietnam from June 1971 to July 1975. He attained the rank of E2. He is the father of West Milford High School graduates.
Marine Corps. Patrick Blenick is currently serving in the Marine Corps as a sergeant. He's a graduate of the Lakeland High School. Michael Nowacki is a veteran who served from 2019 to 2023. He attained the rank of sergeant. Mr. Nowacki is a West Milford High School graduate and is currently an aide at Highlander Academy. He's the brother of Kristen Nowacki. Martin Rowe Sr. served as a corporal from 1967 to 1971. He served in the Vietnam War. He's the uncle of Mr. Rowe. Brian Smith is a veteran who served in Afghanistan and Iraq from 1990 to 1993. He attained the rank of Private First Class. He's the stepfather of Tristan Muir. Navy. Tomas Flores is a veteran who served from 1988 to 2008. He attained the rank of Master at Arms First Class and served in Operation Desert Shield, Operation Desert Storm, and the Global War on Terror. He is the friend of Mrs. Paez. Keith Morano served in the Navy as a petty officer during Petty Officer Second Class from 2001 to 2006. He served in Operation Iraqi Freedom during that time. He's the current assistant hockey coach at West Milford High School. John G. Mishkoff is a veteran who served from 1964 to 1968 in Vietnam. Mr. Mishkoff served as a fire control technician FTG-2. Mr. Mishkoff is the uncle of ELA teacher Mrs. Petrosillo. Allison Smith is a veteran who served in Norfolk, Virginia from 1996 to 1997. She attained the rank of E2. Her son is Tristan Muir. Matthew Sylvester is currently serving and has attained the rank of E5. He is a recruiter for West Milford High School. Air Force. Jacqueline Galella is currently an airman at the United States Air Force Academy. She is a 2023 West Milford High School graduate. George Morales served as a captain in the Air Force. He is the grandfather of Samantha Indo and 2 West Milford High School graduates. Robert Mishkoff is a veteran who served from June 1966 to November 1969. He served in the Vietnam era in Thailand as a sergeant. He is the father of Mrs. Petrosillo and grandfather of Marina Petrosillo. Robert Thomas is a veteran of the Air Force. He served in Korea. National Guard. Liam Indo is currently serving as a specialist in the National Guard. He's a graduate of West Milford High School and is the brother of Samantha Indo. Matthew Tavarone has served in the National Guard since 2020. He is the first lieutenant at Joint Base McGuire-Dix in Lakehurst, New Jersey. He is the cousin of Julia Basita, Emily Basita, and Miss Gwinnett. We are indebted to you for your service. Please join us in a big round of applause to thank our veterans and active personnel here with us today. We would now like to recognize our senior West Milford High School students who plan to commit to military service after graduation. This year, we have one senior who will serve in the military, and we would like her to stand to be recognized. Kaylee Mason will be joining the U.S. Army National Guard. She leaves July 23rd to go to basic training in Fort Moore, Georgia. Kaylee, we wish you the best of luck.
We would now like to recognize veterans and those currently serving from our school and community who were not able to attend our ceremony today. Please hold your applause until the end of the list. Brandon Baldwin served in the Marines. He is a West Milford High School graduate and brother of Kira Timpson. Victor Barbella is a veteran of the Army who served in the Korean War era from 1952 to 1954. He is the grandfather of Nicholas Barbella. Bruce Bobrowski served in the Army in Vietnam. He is the grandfather of Lily Bobrowski and her brother who attends Macbeth. Nicholas Bono is currently serving in Japan. He is a Navy Petty Officer, 3rd class. Nicholas is a 2020 West Milford High School graduate. David Borowski is a veteran of the Marines. He was on active duty 2011 to 2015, then in the reserves from 2016 to 2020. He served in the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit, Joint NATO Operations and Force Readiness, as well as combat operations for Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. He is currently serving as a West Milford police officer. Chris Burns is currently serving in Iraq with the National Guard. He is the husband of our theater director and teacher, Mrs. Burns. Kenneth Canali is an Army veteran who served from 2014 to 2021. He is the son of Coach Canali and Westbrook teacher, Mrs. Canali. Bruce Casparo served in the Army. He is a retired high school staff member. Donald Connors, West Milford class of 1999, served in the Army. Joseph Connors, West Milford High School class of 2005, served in the Navy. Tommy Connors is a veteran of the Marines who served from 2006 to 2010. During that time, he deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom, as well as Operation Caring Response in Burma. He is currently serving as a West Milford police officer. Artie Kroll served in the Air Force from 1967 to 1971 as a weapons specialist. He served in Vietnam. He is a family friend of the Petrosillos. Jeremy Curcio is a West Milford High School graduate who served in the Marines. Raymond Chichuga is a veteran of the Navy who served from 1964 to 1967. He is the grandfather of Ryan and Ashley Chichuga. George Duchess is a veteran of the Army who served from 1967 to 1969. He is the grandfather of Daniel Duchess. Joshua F. Themiades is a West Milford High School graduate who served in the Army. Donald Fantasia served in the Army. He is currently a detective sergeant with the West Milford Police Department. Lindsay Fodor is a veteran who served in the Army from 2009 to 2014. She is the sister-in-law of teacher Mr. McClurg. David Fredrickson served in the Army Reserves and is a West Milford graduate. Devin Freed serves in the Army. Devin is a 2019 West Milford High School graduate, and he is the brother of Aaron Freed. Antonio Garcia is the uncle of Tristan Muir. He is an Army E2 serving in Norfolk, Virginia. Charles Gervais served in the National Guard in the Vietnam era. He is the grandfather of Nicholas Locke. Robert Gorney is a Marine currently serving in Okinawa. He is a 2017 West Milford High School graduate and is the brother of Highlander Academy teacher, Mr. Gorney. William Granada, Francesco Granada, and Nicola Granada are 3 brothers who graduated from West Milford High School. All 3 serve in the Marines. Brian Hamill is a veteran who served in the Marines from 1985 to 1989 and the National Guard from 2009 to 2015. He served in Afghanistan. He is the uncle to Andrew, Thomas, and Morgan Krauthamel. Richard Henkel is a veteran who served in the Army from 2009 to 2019. He served in Operation Iraqi Freedom. He is the uncle of Shannon DeWild. Matt Herwig is a veteran who served in the Marines from 1997 to 2001. He is the father of Kyle Herwig. Charles Heddle is a veteran who served in the Marines from 2005 to 2010. He served in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. Paul Gus Jordan served in the Air Force in Vietnam. He is the father of teacher Mr. Jordan and security officer Mr. Jordan. Alan Kelshaw served in the Navy as a petty officer 3rd class. He served during the Vietnam War era from June 1965 to October 1969. He is the grandfather of Jake Kelshaw and Allison Osterly. Joshua Leighty is a veteran who served in the Navy from 1996 to 2000. He served in Operation Southern Watch and Operation Desert Fox. He is the father of Benjamin Leighty.
Gus Lindstrom is a 2022 West Milford High School graduate and is currently serving in the Air Force. David Lucarelli is currently serving as a corporal in the Marines. He's a 2020 graduate of West Milford High School. Louis Machiavello is a veteran who served in the Marines in 1957 during the Vietnam War. He's the grandfather of Owen Bednars. Daniel Mansour is the father of a West Milford graduate and is serving in the Army. Robert Matthews served in the Army and is a relative of Lucian Barca. Harold McDowell is a veteran of the Army. He served from 1953 to 1955 during the Korean War. He is the grandfather of Nick Barbella. Patrick McKinney is a veteran of the Air Force. He is a relative of Lucian Barca. William McQuaid is a veteran of the Army. He served from 1965 to 1971 during Vietnam. He is the grandfather of Lily Schaefer. Claire Monarch served in the Air Force. She is the stepmother of Sarah Humble. Mateo Messina is currently serving in Syria. He is a specialist in the Army National Guard. Mateo graduated from West Milford High School in 2023 and is brother to Armani, Nico, Luca, and Santino Musina. Jay Hunter Muth is currently serving in the Navy, stationed in San Diego, California. He received the Blue Jacket of the Year award in 2023. Hunter is a 2019 West Milford High School graduate and brother of Ryan Muth. Francesco Petrosillo is currently serving as a cadet second lieutenant in the Army ROTC. He is the son of Mrs. Petrosillo and brother of Marina Petrosillo. Andrew Petrucelli is an Army veteran. He's currently serving as a narcotics detective with the West Milford Police Department. Charles Polglaze Jr. is a veteran of the Navy. He served from 1991 to 1999 in Desert Storm. He is the father of Charles Polglaze III. Matthew Relicki is an Air Force veteran who served from 1993 to 1997. He served in Operation Southern Watch in Saudi Arabia. He is the father of Katie Relicki and Maddie Relicki. James Routh is currently serving in Syria with the Army National Guard. He is a 2017 West Milford High School graduate. Chris Richardson is a veteran of the Marines. He served from 1980 to 1983, which included deployment to Lebanon. He is the grandfather of 2 future Highlanders. Chris Roberts is currently serving in the Army. He is a relative of Lucian Barca. Robert Rowe served in the Marines during the Vietnam War. He is the uncle of Mr. Rowe. Patrick Smits is currently serving in the Marines. He is a West Milford High School graduate. Cole Smith is currently serving in Quantico, Virginia. He is a Lance Corporal in the Marines. Cole is the stepbrother of Tristan Muir. Nicholas Snook is an Army veteran. He's currently serving as a narcotics detective in the West Milford Police Department. Paul Tavarone served as an Army major from 1989 to 2013. He served in the Global War on Terror and in Guantanamo Bay. He's the uncle of Emily and Julia Basida and cousin of Miss Gwinnett. Donovan Tabario is currently serving in Fort Stewart, Georgia. He's an Army Staff Sergeant. He's the uncle of Tristan Muir. Damian Van Riper served in the Marines and National Guard Reserves. He is currently serving as a New Jersey State Trooper. He's a 2017 West Milford High School graduate. Devin Van Riper is currently serving in Syria. He's an Army National Guard Private First Class. Devin is a 2023 graduate of West Milford High School. Bob Van Ostendorp served with honor and was recognized for his service to his unit in the Vietnam conflict. He's the uncle of school counselor Miss Changato. Jake Wyan is currently serving in the Navy, stationed in Japan. He is a 2017 West Milford High School graduate. Kevin Wythe is currently serving in the Coast Guard. Andy Yang is currently serving in the Army National Guard. Andy is a 2020 West Milford High School graduate and brother of Mia Yang. Please share your applause in honor of our veterans and those currently serving.
We will now recognize the military service of deceased members of our school and West Milford community. Please join us in quiet, solemn reflection as all names are read. As names are read, we also welcome you to remember anyone in your heart who is not listed here. Burton Babcock served in the Navy during World War II. He was the grandfather of 3 West Milford High School graduates. Leonard Barker served in the Navy during World War II. He was the great-grandfather of Alexandra Rocky. Glenn Bartman served in the Army from 1966 to 1969. He served in Vietnam as a helicopter door gunner for the 1st Aviation Brigade called the Warlords. He was the grandfather of Cheyenne and Travis Kapnier. James Barlow served in the Army during World War II from 1942 to 1945. He was the great-grandfather of Lily Schaefer. Anthony Belsante served in the Navy during World War II from 1943 to 1945. He was the grandfather of Jessica Conklin. Carl Benson served as an Army radio operator in Vietnam. His grandson is Tyler Benson Terode. Robert Bodie served in the Army. He was stationed in Fort Carson, Colorado, and in Germany. He was the grandfather of Vincent Freeman and Mia Freeman. David Bolger served in the Marines during the Vietnam era. Pernell Bowen served in the Army and Coast Guard during World War II. He was a relative of Sarah Gardner. Bob Siegel served in the Marines during World War II. He is the great-grandfather of Selma Sadom. Joseph Colucci served in the Army during World War II. He was the great-grandfather of Angelina Colucci and Sophia Colucci. William Fred Cook served in the Navy during World War II as a member of the Seabees Construction Battalion in Africa. He was the grandfather of ELA teacher Mrs. Petrosillo and great-grandfather of Marina Petrosillo. Philip Curry served in the Navy as a mine man from 1953 to 1964 and the Air Force as a Chief Master Sergeant from 1974 to 1994. He was the grandfather of Ryan Johnson. Joe D'Angelo was an Army veteran who served in Vietnam. He was the grandfather of Sarah Humble. Emmanuel DeBonis served in the Marines. He was the grandfather of Isabella and Juliana DeBonis. Edward DeYoung served in the Navy as an E5 from 1954 to 1960. His great-nephew is Tristan Muir. Willie Ditmar served in the Navy from 1965 to 1968. He was the grandfather of Ella Stevenson. Robert Duffy served as an Army corporal in Korea. He was the grandfather of Kate Duffy. Dave Everson served in the Army from 1965 to 1969 during the Vietnam era. He was the grandfather of Haley Rubenecker. Arthur Hansen was awarded the Merchant Mariner Congressional Medal of Honor on July 8, 2022, in recognition of his work on a crew that carried supplies to the Allies during World War II. Mr. Hansen also served in the Korean War, flying nearly 100 missions. He was the grandfather of Eva Hansen. Arthur Holler served in the Navy during World War II, from 1937 to 1945. His great-grandson is Tristan Murrer.
Dominic Iannuzzi served in the Army. He was the uncle of business teacher Miss White. Rocco Iannuzzi served in the Army. He was the uncle of business teacher Miss White. George Konovich served in the Army. He was the father of Mrs. Colucci and the grandfather of Angelina Colucci and Sophia Colucci. Joseph Lambert was the father of school counselor Miss Lambert. He served in the Air Force as a military policeman and dog handler from 1958 to 1961. Carmen Lombardo served in the Navy from 1959 to 1963 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was the grandfather of a West Milford High School graduate. Charles Lush served in the Marines during Vietnam. He was the grandfather of Sarah Gardner. Raymond Peter Mack served in the Navy from 1958 to 1964. He was the grandfather of Ava Brock and Landon McKenzie. Henry Frederick Manger served in the Navy during World War II. He's the great-grandfather of Selma Sadom. Stephen Milligan served in the Army from 1965 to 1969 during the Vietnam era. He's the grandfather of a West Milford High School graduate. Vincenzo Maraglia served in the Marines. He was a family friend of Isabella and Juliana DeBonis. William Mitchell served in the Army from 1969 to 1971. He was the grandfather of Ryan and Ashley Chachuga. Joseph Mulligan served in the Army from 1964 to 1965 during Vietnam. He was the grandfather of Ava Tecchio. George G. Meishkoff served in the Navy during World War II. He was the grandfather of ELA teacher Mrs. Petrosillo and great-grandfather of Marina Petrosillo. Michael Nowacki served as a Chief Petty Officer in the Navy during World War II from 1941 to 1947. He was the grandfather of Kristen Nowacki and Mr. Michael Nowacki. Ed Pops Oliero served in the Army from 1950 to 1952 during the Korean War. He attained the rank of corporal. After his service, he served the township of West Milford for over 50 years. He was the grandfather of James O'Brien, who was a student at Macmillan School. Charles Osborne served in the Army during World War II. He was the great-grandfather of Sarah Gardner. Raymond Pry served in the Army in 1954 during the Korean War. He was the father-in-law of instructional aide Mrs. Pry. Bernard Rowe served in the Army. He served in the Pacific Theater in World War II and in the Korean War. He was the great-uncle of teacher Mr. Rowe. Henry Rowe served in the Army during World War II. He was the grandfather of Mr. Rowe. Harold Van Nostrand served in the Air Force from 1963 to 1969 during the Vietnam era. He was the grandfather of John Palazzi. Frank E. Toscani was an Army colonel who served from 1943 to 1973. His heroic actions in Licata, Italy, inspired a novel, movie, and Broadway play. His great-grandchildren are Jenny and Chris Good. Calvin Wagner served as a chief petty officer in the Navy during World War II from 1943 to 1944. He was the great-grandfather of Brianna Hallahan. Harold Robert White served in the Air Force from 1954 to 1958. He was the father of business teacher Miss White. Cornelius Winkins served in the Army during the Korean War. Edward Wolski served in the Army in 1944 during World War II. He was the father of instructional aide Mrs. Pry. We honor their memory and thank them for their service.
Finally, we would like to recognize servicemen who made the ultimate sacrifice and gave their lives in service to our country. Please listen respectfully to the names, then join us in a moment of silence. Albert Caruso served in the Army during World War II. He was the great-uncle of ELA teacher Mr. Rowe. Brian Perello was a Lance Corporal serving in the Marines. He was killed in action in Iraq in 2005. Jason Butkiss was a staff sergeant serving in the Army. He was killed in action in Iraq in 2007. Eric Hernandez was a sergeant serving in the Army. He was killed in action in Iraq in 2007. Thank you. Our veterans will now place the wreath in honor of Memorial Day. Please stand as we pay respects to our fallen heroes.
At this time, I would like to thank all those who worked so hard to put this day together. Mrs. Metcalf, Mrs. Changato, Mrs. Pry, Mrs. Petrosillo, Mr. Jordan, our TV science students, Mrs. Burns and our lighting and audio crew. And I would also like to thank all our veterans by giving them one more round of applause for their service and sacrifice. At this time, this concludes our ceremony. So teachers, you may please return to class. Students, I'm going to dismiss you by section. I do need the hockey team to stay to get a picture with Coach Keith after. So anyone in the back sections of the bleachers there, please go out that door. Bleacher sections by the girls' locker room, please go out the back door there. Bleacher sections here, please go right over here, be mindful of the wreath. And students over here, please go out there. Thank you for being a fantastic audience.